At the dealership, they looked at me like I didn't belong until Mr. Carter said my last name out loud. They didn't even tell me Ryan was getting a car. No one texted, no one called. I only found out because Mom left the appointment. Scribbled on the kitchen calendar like it was a grocery reminder. Ryan, car pickup, 3 p.m. Red ink, like it mattered more than me. I wasn't invited. I was never invited to anything that involved celebration. Still, I showed up. I walked into that dealership not to cause a scene, but because I needed to witness how far they were willing to go to pretend I didn't exist. I just wanted to feel it in real time. The pain of being excluded. When I entered, Mom blinked, like I was a stranger. Dad gave a weak nod, like I was a coworker they barely remembered. Ryan smirked. "This is kind of a family thing," he said, loud enough for the receptionist to hear. My cheeks burned, but I didn't move. I stood near the glass window, silent, still. There was a red bow on the hood, the kind you only see in commercials. Ryan was bouncing around, filming everything for Instagram. "First car, baby," he shouted, turning the camera toward Mom, who kissed his cheek like he'd cured cancer. Dad chuckled in the background. No one looked in my direction. Then came Mr. Carter, the dealership manager. He shook everyone's hands except mine. Not out of cruelty, but because no one introduced me. I didn't blame him. I was the invisible one, always have been. The extra, the helper, the one who gets left out of photos. Still, he noticed me watching. Maybe it was the way I stood. Maybe the way I didn't smile. His eyes scanned a clipboard, and then he paused. "Miss Adams?" he asked, looking directly at me. The room shifted. I felt Mom stiffen. Ryan turned, frowning. I didn't answer. "Right away, I just met his eyes. I'll need your signature here," he said, pointing at the papers. I walked forward. My heartbeat was steady, surprisingly. I didn't ask questions. I didn't explain. I just held the pen and signed where he showed me. Their eyes followed every move, like I'd pulled out a weapon. "That's strange," Mommy said, trying to force a laugh. "Why would she need to sign anything?" Mr. Carter, now confused himself, flipped through the folder. "She's the co-signer. The account is under her name. The down payment came from her bank." The silence that followed made my skin hum. I didn't look at them. I looked at the car. The red bow, the keys, all of it. All that effort to crown Ryan. And somehow, I was the foundation of it. I was the reason it even happened. But no one had told me. No one had thanked me. I was useful. But never loved. That was the moment. The one I'll always remember. Their stunned faces, their shifting eyes, their silence. And me, finally still. Finally grounded. I didn't gloat. I didn't cry. I just said, "Let me know when you're done," and walked outside. For the first time, they felt what I had felt my entire life. Small, forgotten, and exposed. I was always the responsible one. The girl who didn't ask for much. The one who got straight A's, cleaned up after dinner, and never slammed doors. I thought if I was easy to love, maybe they'd love me. But I was never the reason. They smiled. That was always Ryan. Ryan was born glowing. That's how Mom used to say it. He lit up the whole room. I was 7 when he arrived, and I remember how everything in the house shifted toward him. Attention, affection, even time. I stopped being a daughter and became a background character in his spotlight. Growing up, I didn't get birthday parties. Not real ones. Mom would bake cupcakes and call it a day. But Ryan got themes, decorations, rented spaces. Pirates one year, dinosaurs the next. Once they hired a magician. I watched from the kitchen, holding paper plates. When I got accepted into college, no one came to tour the campus with me. I took the bus alone, slept in a shared dorm with 3 strangers, and unpacked without a single text from home. When Ryan got in, 2 years later, Mom posted it on Facebook like he'd been crowned king. Money was always tight when it came to me. I paid my own tuition, worked nights, and skipped meals. But when Ryan said he wanted a car for his senior year, suddenly they had savings. Dad called it an investment. I wanted to ask, was I not worth investing in? Even holidays hurt. One Christmas, Ryan got a MacBook and a leather jacket. I got socks and a re-gifted candle. I knew because it had a tag addressed to someone else underneath. When I looked up, they were all laughing at a story he was telling. I might as well have been furniture. I tried to bring it up once. I was 16. I asked Mom why Ryan got more. She didn't even look at me. He needs more. Boys have more pressure, she said, stirring pasta like it was math. Dad nodded. You're stronger, Em. You can handle it. As if being forgotten was some badge of honor. So I stopped asking. I stopped hoping. I became silent. Not because I didn't feel, but because every word I spoke disappeared into their indifference. I kept my head down and built a life quietly, piece by piece, while they praised Ryan for breathing. But silence doesn't mean absence. I was watching, remembering. And slowly I started building things in my own name, things they didn't know about, things they assumed I wasn't capable of. It wasn't revenge, not yet. It was survival. By the time Ryan asked them for a car, I already knew how this would go. I knew they'd say yes. I knew they'd celebrate him. I just didn't expect they'd do it with my name stamped under every signature. That was the part they didn't plan for. And that changed everything. The red flags weren't loud. They were quiet, constant, the kind that pile up in the corners of your memory. Like when Mom would brag about Ryan's C+ in math but ignore my scholarship letter sitting on the fridge. Or when Dad gave him gas, money, but asked me for rent. When I got my first job at the bookstore, I used the paycheck to buy groceries for the house. No one thanked me. When Ryan got his first paycheck, from a summer camp he worked at for 2 weeks, they threw a dinner. In his honor. Steak, wine, cake. I cleaned up after. Ryan was allowed to fail. He crashed Mom's car once coming back from a party. They said it was a learning experience. When I got a parking ticket, Mom called me irresponsible and grounded me for a month. I was 22 and already paying for my own college. He called them for everything. Flat tire, bad grade, even what shirt to wear on dates. I stopped calling years ago. I learned that silence hurt less than the sighs on the other end of the line. What now, Emily? They'd say, as if I was a burden they tolerated. Once I got sick and needed surgery. I drove myself to the hospital, stayed overnight alone. I texted them after just to let them know. No reply. A week later, Ryan sprained his ankle during a soccer game. Mom left work to be by his side and posted the X-ray on Facebook. I started keeping receipts. Not literal ones, emotional ones. Mental screenshots of every time they looked through me, every time they praised him in front of me, every time my name disappeared from conversations where I should have mattered. It built a kind of wall inside me. Not angry, just done. They always asked me to help them help him. Proofread his essays, edit his resume, drive him to interviews. I did it, thinking maybe they'd see me if I kept proving my worth. But they never did. They only saw results, never the hands behind them. Even when I bought my own used car, with cash, Mom said, "You got lucky." When Ryan mentioned he wanted one, they started comparing prices online before he finished the sentence. He deserves something safe, Dad said. I guess I didn't. The worst part? Ryan never noticed. Or maybe he did. And he liked it that way. Either way, he never questioned why he always got the best of them, and I got silence. He never once asked if I was okay. He never wondered why I stopped coming home. By the time the dealership moment happened, I had years of this behind my eyes. Years of being skipped over, stepped around, spoken through. They didn't notice the storm they built inside me because to them I was just weather, background noise, a shadow. The week before the dealership, I overheard them talking in the kitchen. I had come by to drop off a package that was mistakenly delivered to my old address. I wasn't supposed to stay, but their voices pulled me in like gravity. Don't mention it to Emily, Mom said. She'll make it about herself. Dad laughed. Yeah, let's keep this clean. Just Ryan's moment. It wasn't even anger I felt. It was clarity. After all this time, they still saw me as a disruption, not a daughter, just someone whose presence ruins the picture. I walked out without saying a word. What hurt most wasn't that they bought him the car. It was that they did it in secret, like I was a danger, like I couldn't be trusted to witness their generosity, like my existence made their joy feel smaller. I wasn't competition, but they treated me like a threat. 3 days before the pickup, Ryan texted me out of nowhere. "Hey, do you know anything about co-signing loans?" No greeting, no explanation. I told him I did. I waited to see if he'd ask for help. He didn't. He just sent a thumbs up emoji and disappeared again. That was my warning sign. Then came the email. I was checking my inbox late at night when I saw the subject, loan confirmation. I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam. But my name was all over it, not as a reference, as a co-signer, attached to a loan application I never filled out, but one I apparently approved. They'd used my information, somehow. Maybe from old papers, old forms. Maybe Ryan had access to my accounts once, years ago. I don't know how. But the signature on the file wasn't mine. It was a soft forgery. Just enough to slide under the radar. Just enough to humiliate me quietly. I called Mom. She didn't pick up. Texted Dad. No reply. Ryan finally answered with, "Don't make this a big thing. It's handled." Handled. That's the word that set my chest on fire. Like I was a technical issue, not a human being. Like stealing my name was a small inconvenience. The betrayal wasn't just in the act. It was in the silence that followed. No apology, no shame, no explanation. Just a collective agreement that I was supposed to shut up and let it slide. Let them smile for the camera while I held the foundation. Beneath them, I could have exposed them right there. Sent the email to the dealership, started a legal process. But something in me didn't want courtrooms. I wanted something quieter, something that would make them feel what I felt, without ever raising my voice. So I waited. I showed up at the dealership, not to cause a scene, but to make them look me in the eye while standing on a lie they built with my name. And when Mr. Carter called me out, it shattered the performance. That silence, that was my justice, beginning to take form. I didn't cry at the dealership. I didn't scream. But when I got back to my apartment, I sat in the dark for hours, my coat still on, purse still on my shoulder. I didn't move. It wasn't sadness. Not at first. It was a numbness so heavy I couldn't feel my own body. The car was never the point. It was what the car represented. A ceremony, a reward, a public declaration of who mattered. They built that whole moment for Ryan, and they used my name to do it. They didn't just ignore me. They used me and erased me at the same time. That night, I scrolled through photos Ryan posted, him posing with the red bow, flashing peace signs, Mom kissing his cheek, Dad with one hand on the car hood like it was a newborn. I wasn't in any of them, not even in the background. It was like I didn't exist. I saw the comments too. Proud parents. You raised a good one. Lucky guy, I wanted to reply. They didn't pay for it. It's in my name. They lied. But I didn't. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew none of them would believe me. They never do. That's the part no one talks about. How grief can feel like shame. Like somehow, you're the wrong one for noticing the unfairness, for feeling invisible, for needing love that doesn't come. I hated myself for still wanting them to care, for still checking my phone, waiting for an apology that never came. I called my best friend Leah. She's the only person who's seen the cracks beneath my silence. As soon as she picked up, I broke. I didn't even say hello. I just said, "They did it again." And she knew exactly what I meant. No details needed, just the ache. She came over, brought Thai food and sat with me on the floor. I didn't eat. I couldn't. I just kept whispering, "Why does it still hurt?" Over and over. She didn't answer. She just held my hand. And in that moment, I realized how starved I was for gentle things. The next morning, I couldn't get out of bed. I called in sick to work. I deleted Instagram, turned my phone off. I wasn't ready to face the world. I wasn't ready to pretend I was okay. I needed the silence, even if it echoed like a scream in my apartment. By day 3, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Not physically, emotionally. My eyes had gone flat. My mouth sat in a permanent line. I wasn't angry. Anymore. I was emptied. They had taken something from me I couldn't name. And for once, I didn't want to give it back. That's when I knew I couldn't let it go. Not this time. This wasn't just another slight. This was identity theft, emotional and literal. And if they could do that without consequence, they'd keep doing it. To me, to others. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming something they thought they owned. My name. I started by requesting the full loan file from the dealership. Mr. Carter was surprisingly helpful. He said, "You seemed out of place that day." I told him the truth, not all of it, just enough, that my name had been used without my knowledge. His voice changed after that. It got careful, respectful. When the email came with the documents, I opened it like I was handling a wound. Each page confirmed what I already suspected. The application had my full name, address, even my social security number. The signature was mine, or at least close enough to fool a system that didn't care to ask questions. I printed everything, spread the pages across my living room floor. I felt like I was building a puzzle, but the picture wasn't a memory. It was a betrayal in ink. Every line screamed one thing: you were never supposed to find this. That made me want to find everything. I checked my credit report next. And there it was, a hard inquiry. A new account under my name, their fingerprints pressed onto my life, like I was just another form to fill. I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't scared. I was done. Then I found the connection. Ryan had access to my old laptop, the one I used during college. I remembered lending it to him once when his broke. It had all my saved passwords, including the login to my financial dashboard. I never changed them. I never thought I'd need to. I confronted him by text. I wrote, "You used my name, you forged my signature, and you lied." He replied with, "It wasn't that deep. I needed help. You weren't using it." That was it. Like he borrowed a hoodie. Like my credit, my trust, my identity were things he could pick up and toss back. I forwarded that message to my email. Then I sent it to myself again, just to see it twice. Just to prove it wasn't all in my head. I started a folder. I labeled it Receipts. It was small at first. Then it grew. Screenshots, emails, scanned pages, timestamps. My silence, finally organized. I didn't tell Leah everything, but she saw the fire coming back into my voice. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I said, "I'm not going to destroy them. I'm going to show them who they forgot I was. Not their helper, not their shadow, their consequence." The dealership had a policy. All owners had to be present for final registration. That detail had been skipped somehow, rushed through by a sales rep too eager to close. Mr. Carter offered me a reappointment. I asked him not to call them. I said, "I'll bring them myself." I wasn't planning a fight. I wasn't planning a scene. I was planning a mirror. One where they'd finally have to see themselves, not the filtered version they curated for family, photos, and social media. Just the raw truth, them, me, and the car that carried all of it. I asked them to meet me at the dealership. I said it was about clarifying paperwork. No one questioned it, not even Ryan. Maybe they thought I was finally stepping aside. Maybe they thought I'd come to help, like I always did. Old. Habits die hard. When they arrived, I was already seated with Mr. Carter, calm, composed. The papers were laid out neatly on the desk, right beside a folder labeled Loan Review. They walked in laughing like it was another family errand. Mom was wearing sunglasses. Ryan had coffee in hand. Dad looked mildly annoyed. I didn't stand to greet them. I just said, "Have a seat." Mom gave me a side glance, confused by the formality. Ryan pulled a chair and slouched like it was his show. Mr. Carter remained silent, flipping through the forms with practiced ease. Then he looked at me and said, "Whenever you're ready." I reached into my bag and pulled out The folder. The one with the screenshots. The forged signature. The text Ryan sent. I slid it across the table slowly. "This is everything you used to take something from me," I said. "And this is where it ends." The air shifted. Tension wrapped around the room like fog. Mom blinked fast. "Emily, what are you talking about?" Dad sat up straighter. Ryan scoffed. "You're being dramatic." I looked at Mr. Carter. He nodded. "As it stands, the loan was opened fraudulently. She has every right to dispute it, which would void the sale and trigger legal action." That was when Ryan paled. "Wait, you're not actually gonna—" I cut him off. "I'm not suing you, Ryan. I'm reclaiming what's mine. My name, my credit, my silence." Then I turned to Mr. Carter. "I'd like to remove myself as co-signer and transfer the loan fully to him. Or cancel the deal." Mom opened her mouth, but no words came out. Dad looked at the papers like they might explode. Ryan was frozen, a coffee cup trembling in his hand. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just kept speaking clearly. "I'm not here to beg. I'm here to be done." Mr. Carter explained their options. Ryan would have to reapply in his own name. Without my credit, he didn't qualify. The sale would be canceled. The car returned. The red bow removed. I watched their faces shift from confusion to disbelief, to something close to fear. "I'm not going to ruin your lives," I said. "But you don't get to decorate yours with mine anymore." No one replied, not even Ryan, especially not Mom. For once, her silence wasn't power. It was shame. She couldn't look at me. She stared at the desk like it might swallow her whole. I stood. Mr. Carter stood with me. I picked up my folder, zipped my bag, and paused at the door. "You always told me I was strong," I said quietly. "You were right, just not in the way you meant." Then I walked out, leaving behind the lies, the bow, and the family that never saw me. I didn't look back when I walked out of that dealership, not once. I didn't need to. I'd carried that weight for so long I could feel the difference in my spine. Something had shifted. I wasn't carrying their silence anymore. Only my own voice. And for once, that was enough. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. No heaviness in my chest. No lingering fog. Just space. I made coffee slowly, like it mattered. I didn't check my phone. I didn't need to know what they said. I already knew. They weren't used to being held accountable by the daughter they trained to stay quiet. I started cleaning my apartment, not out of stress, but ceremony. I took down old photos, the ones where I smiled too hard to prove I belonged, the ones where Ryan stood in the center and I hovered like a placeholder. I replaced them with light, with space, with nothing. It felt like peace. Leah came by later that week. She brought tulips and asked nothing, just hugged me and said, "You did it." And I cried. Not because I was broken, but because someone finally saw the storm and said, "You don't have to carry it alone." There's a kind of healing in being witnessed. The dealership called to confirm the cancellation. The car was returned, the bow taken down, the paperwork voided, my credit restored. No one from my family reached out, not even a why. And somehow that silence felt like a confession louder than any apology could ever be. I blocked Ryan's number, archived old texts, deleted every group chat I was only added to when they needed something. I wasn't erasing my past, just refusing to let it define my worth. I didn't need them to rewrite the story. I had written my own ending. I started using my last name differently after that. On resumes, on portfolios, on my own small business cards. I had built things in secret for so long, afraid they'd laugh or dismiss me. But now I carried my name like a banner. Not because of them, in spite of them. Months later, I heard from a distant cousin. She said, "I saw what happened. That was brave." And for a second, I froze. Because no one had ever called my silence brave. But that's what it was. Not weakness, not submission, but strategy. The kind that ends in clarity, not chaos. Now, when I see cars with red bows, I smile, not from pain, but from knowing. Knowing I walked away with my name intact, my spine straight, my voice mine. They thought I would stay quiet forever, that I'd play the background while they rehearsed their lies. They were wrong, because now, the responsible one has a name, and it's not theirs to use anymore.